Welcome to Heroes 2, the making of the game. My name is Vanesa Pizzuto, and today we get to talk to Pastor Sam Gungaloo about why we made this game and the series of events that made it possible. Welcome, Sam. It's great to have you with us.
Great to be here.
For those who don't have the privilege of knowing you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Just a little bit. Okay.
Just a little bit. Where you are at the moment.
Well, I've had the privilege in my story so far to be working side by side with Vanesa. It's so good to be able to meet you again on camera. We were in studio. We worked for Adventist Radio London for a bit. I've been serving as a pastor here in Seattle for approximately just over a year. But my story began back in England, as you can hear from this beautiful accent. I began ministry in 2013, and it's really interesting to have this conversation because this conversation really kind of got the ball rolling, not just for my ministry, but specifically for my relationship with Heroes. And so I would have to say Heroes began my first leg of ministry that kind of propelled me into all kinds of different streams of pastoral ministry that changed over time, from radio ministry to media ministry to local church ministry.
Okay, I need to know more. How is the story of Heroes connected with your own calling as a pastor, as a minister?
So I left Newbold in 2012, graduated in 2013. But in between 2012 and 2013, I was jobless. And
as it happens sometimes.
I guess so. And I'm not going to lie, it was a little bit discouraging. You've studied for 5.5 years. You've done your bachelor's, your master's, you're screened out, booked out, libraried out, and moneyed out.
For sure.
Making up all these words as I go along. One day they'll be coined and they'll be in the dictionary. So after all of that experience, you just kind of expect the next chapter to be, all right, employment, money. I no longer want to live in my mother's house. I want to be free.
And what happened?
I took the advice of my mother begrudgingly. She was just like, she was at Wimbledon, Seventh-day International Seventh-day Adventist Church. And she was just like, well, why don't you just speak to the pastor here and see if you can get a little something here? Right. And I remember I didn't want to do that because of pride. And I remember actually, it was mainly to do also with the fact that I didn't want to work in the church, but that was where my mother was.
Did you know the pastor in that church?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I knew of him. I heard about him, but I think the greater reason why I didn't want to work in the church was because my mother was there. But my mum was like, do you know what? You have no job. You've got nothing to lose. You might as well.
Listen.
Okay. And I gave him a call. I said,
and this pastor was
Pastor Sam Nevis.
Of course.
And we'd never really officially met or anything. We had a conversation and we talked about things. And I remember, I think he said something to the tune of, why don't you just come in for interview? No, for a talk or a chat. It sounded very interviewy. Tomorrow. And I remember being so arrogant. I was just like, I'm not gonna drop everything just to come because you think I've got nothing to do with my life and I have nothing to do. And I did have nothing to do with my life, and I did have nothing to do. But I stubbornly said no to him because I just wanted to just save face and I was very prideful. Anyway, long story short, we made some time to come in, and I came in, with an unwilling heart because I didn't want this. I wanted to be employed. in
Yeah.
ministry. And I knew
Yeah.
that Sam couldn't pay me. I
Right.
mean, it wasn't up to him to choose that. I wanted to be employed as a pastor. That's what I've been studying for. And to have this side gig was not something I was really excited about. It was like a glorified youth leader-ish kind of position. And this is not speaking bad against youth leadership, but to me,
It was not what you were looking for,
no, it wasn't.
but you
And
said
one
yes.
I did,
Yeah.
kind of begrudgingly, but when we had that conversation for the first time, God humbled me
Mm.
in that moment, because it was never about what I wanted in the first place coming into
Oh, now
ministry.
you're preaching, huh? Now you're preaching.
Do you know
It was
what?
not about you.
Well, God kind of works with you in different ways, and I'm really grateful that He works with prideful and arrogant people, because
Mm.
those are the people that sometimes He really moves forward, not just necessarily for the cause of ministry for the wider population, but for the cause
Yeah.
of that individual
Mm-hmm.
who God wants to transform. Me and Sam sat down, we had a conversation, and I met a dreamer. I met someone who was
Yeah.
still naive enough to believe that you could change the world. I thought I was the only person who was like that. And apparently there was another guy who was just weird like that, and I thought I was the biggest dreamer in the world. That's what I thought. And then
Yeah.
I came and met Sam, and I thought, no, you're just an idiot. You dream beyond that. That's literally impossible. Sam introduced me to a world where impossibility was just a challenge to rise up to.
So what
And
was, sorry, go ahead.
no, go on.
I was going to say, so what did he tell you to do in the context of Heroes? He said, okay, you have to dream bigger. You have to, the sky's the limit, so to speak. And
Right.
then he said, okay, I want you to do this or that for Heroes. What was your role?
My role at the beginning was a little bit undefined. We were working through different things. We were trying to engage our young people. We were trying to engage the church by immersing them into the Bible. And we had some traditional backgrounds in campaigns or series, as some of us might be familiar with in the church with. A bunch of meetings where we all come together and we hear the word being preached. But over the years, I would have to say we haven't reached much success in some of these methods. So we had to dream up something upon which people could come into a space, be immensely inspired, and walk away challenged to action. We both love TED Talks. Those are one things that we were really gripped by. And we were just moved by the amazing power that someone can get on a stage like a TED Talk and just captivate the attention of so many people to the point that they would not be distracted and totally moved to action as a result of it. And we thought to ourselves, well, why don't we just bring elements of that into the series that we do? And why don't we just radically change the method and the look and create a buzz around professionalism and get rid of mediocrity so as we can give the Bible its rightful place. So we designed a series that was fundamentally different. Can I go a little bit into
Tell me.
some of that details?
Yeah.
So one of the major things of what we wanted to try and do is we wanted to give the Bible characters their rightful place in the heroic story of the entire biblical narrative. We talk about these Bible characters as stories lost in antiquity. We don't talk about them as heroes that are relevant for our here and now. I grew up with them as children's stories, and they're cute and they're nice and it's cool, but there is something deep within these heroic stories that we read and we immerse with, that we resonate with, because when I look at David and I see elements of how he's able to achieve great feats, I'm excited by him because I'm not him. He's in the Bible and he's distant from me. But actually what God is saying through these stories is there are many elements that are you in David, the good stuff and the bad stuff. And we wanted to extract that and bring that to the stage, bring that to the pulpit, if you were, to show
The idea that you
everyone.
can be imperfect and be a hero. The
Ex-
idea that you don't have to have superpowers. God
Right.
is the one with superpowers. You're
Right.
human, you're broken, and God will use you for his kingdom. That's amazing. How
Right.
did people react to this? Because it was different. And how did that connect with the beginning of Heroes?
I'm not going to lie. For the first evangelistic series that we did for Heroes, there was pushback.
Yeah.
Because
Because
I
it was
think
different.
it was different. Yes. Yeah. And most people don't like immediately up against difference.
Yeah.
But when we first started to unveil it and we were almost there to launch, Sam found this amazing mural artist to draw this massive, huge picture of David. I'm guessing it was about 12, 13 feet high. And he had muscles and everything, and he was there with his sword and shield. But he literally painted the entire wall of David, and it was just amazing and immense. And I remember as we were leading up to the series, people started to get more and more excited because they could start to visualize the dream. And I think one thing about our partnership, me and Sam, back then when we were working together, we enabled each other to dream big, because when we all have moments where we don't dream big, but we need someone else to maintain a dream. Because when I feel weak, Sam was strong. When Sam was weak, I was strong. We kept pushing and we made it happen. So there was some sad news, at least for me. I think for both of us as well. We were doing so well, and Heroes, the series, was just about to kick off on that first Sabbath. And about 3 weeks before that, I got a call from the conference.
Right.
And it was the call, I'm going to put it in these words, it was the call that I always wanted.
Right. It was a job offer, something that you were like, okay, this is what I always wanted to do. What did you do?
And I did want it.
Yeah.
But I was having so much fun doing really
Heroes.
innovative, creative
Yes.
ministry. Heroes was just about to take off, and we were about to do this amazing program. And all I asked was just give me a month so that I could finish Heroes. But the need was so great that they needed a minister to start literally immediately. Long story short, I had to drop what I was doing, and I began pastoral ministry in less than 6 days. I was employed.
Wow.
And I was off to another part of London where I had to do the work, and I couldn't complete the journey that I was doing with Heroes. I lived vicariously through Sam's stories, through the videos, through the successes. It was such a huge hit to London. And I will say this, as someone who grew up in London, I will say this. I think it was probably the most successful evangelistic series that I've ever been a part of, experienced with. One of the amazing things about Heroes, it wasn't just a preaching series where Sam would go up there, preach a sermon, and then we'd maybe sing a few songs and go home. It was more than that. What we did is we gave power to people to be able to be part of the evangelistic invitation of people to that series. So what we did is we had cards that went out to various different people, and you, Vanessa, would have a card, and on that card you would think about friends that you would want to invite to this series, and there would be this powerful phrase that Sam came up with, and we curated together a number of different things, and the phrase was, it would mean a lot to me if you were to come to this. We wanted to try and express to those who we wanted to invite that if they turned up to this hero series, it would literally change their life. We had people coming down from Peterborough. For those of you who don't know the geography of England, 50 to 100 miles away, would literally travel down just to be at the Heroes series, because it would mean a lot to Vanessa.
And not many people know that the game actually started with a series, with an evangelistic series that was hugely successful.
Yeah.
We're wrapping up because we're running out of time, but I do want to ask you, some people feel that maybe digital evangelism is not necessary, that digital evangelism doesn't necessarily create the kind of community bonds that we want. What would you say to these people? What would you say?
You don't have the time for me to
do give me an idea.
Okay, let me try this and say this. If there is anything that the pandemic has taught us, is the need for digital evangelism in an age like this. I was thrown into the deep end through this pandemic to learn that God is not limited by a physical space or a non-physical space. In fact, God is amplified. In any way that he wants to try and speak, he will speak. There are people out there who need to be engaged through a screen, because that is the language that is going to take them to the foot of the cross. We have a role and a responsibility as Seventh-day Adventists to step into every single space that God grants us. And we have a role and a responsibility to use that space responsibly to preach the word and allow people to meet Jesus. Heroes was just the beginning to try and wake us up to the reality. We need to occupy the space and claim those spaces for Jesus, because there are people who need them. And if we only focus on the physical space or the non-digital space, we'll reach so many different people, and that will be awesome and that will be amazing. But there is such a huge area of untapped space which God has already asked us to walk into that land, because he has already claimed that land for us.
Absolutely.
And he's asking us to move forward into that.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that. I love that. We need to claim the territory
100%.
that we were given. Okay, you have one last chance, one last comment I want from you. I know this is difficult, but one last chance. If you had to summarize the impact that Heroes had in your life in one sentence, what would you say, Sam?
I'm going to be corny and come up with the very first sentence that we had with Heroes. You're the hero of your own story, because Jesus is your ultimate hero.
Oh, that's good. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sam. It's been a pleasure talking to you today.
Pleasure talking to you too.